amazing author, amazing activist, educator. Thank you for joining us for the very first time. It's good to meet you for the first time, Dr. CBS.
Hey, thank you for having me on. I was wondering when I would be on here. I feel like I tweeted y'all a long time ago, like, don't you have Black radicals on your show? Like, where's my invite? So I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad we finally able to bring you on. And trust me, you guys gonna see a lot more of Black radicals, people like Dr. CBS on our show. It's very hard because I reach out to especially like it's odd enough. I heard Breonna Joy Gray, who we're gonna talk about later. She talked about this as well. It's very hard to find Black women actually do these shows. I trust
Yeah.
me, guys. I tried, but there's a lot of people are very nervous to do these shows. But so I'm always happy to platform anyone with a Black radical perspective. And with that said, since this is the first time you're coming on our show, you have this amazing event that you doing in Mali. And just a coincidence because we just had him on the Sabby and JB show yesterday. So I'm glad to see you guys in community with each other. Can you maybe talk more about your work, how you got into this, your background, and maybe some background about this event that apparently about to be held tomorrow with you and Chairman Amali?
Sure. So my name is Sharice Stelly, and I am an associate professor of African American Studies at Wayne State University. I'm a member of the Black Alliance for Peace and Community Movement Builders. In my research, I study a lot of things, but my most recent book, shameless plug right here, Black Scare, Red Scare, Theorizing Capitalist Racism in the United States, is part of my research focus on the intersections of anti-Black racial oppression and anti-radicalism, especially anti-communism. My book focuses on the period between 1917 and 1954, but the epilogue of my book actually brings it up to the present, through the 1960s and up to the present, which I wrote about the African People's Socialist Party and their indictment as a current iteration of the Black Scare, Red Scare. And so I think through perhaps that writing or some of my other writing, a member of the APSP found me and asked me to participate. I met the gentleman at the Black Radical Conference that happened over the summer that Community Movement Builders organized. And anyway, so he invited me to be on this panel tomorrow called Black Education and the Struggle for Anti-Colonial Free Speech. I will be talking about my book and how my book resonates with the current moment, given like the disciplining of Palestinian students, pro-Palestine activists, students who are coming into consciousness and connecting what's happening in Palestine to things like Cops Off Campus. And so I think it's an event that's meant to lift up the case of the Uhuru 3, as well as talk about like these broader attacks on Black radical folks, not only in higher education, but in, society more broadly. So folks should tap in. It's tomorrow, I believe at 2 p.m.
Yeah.
Nope. Yeah, 2 p.m. Eastern.
We had Amali on yesterday on the Sabby and JV show. Once again, highly recommend for everyone to watch that who didn't. Do you want to speak on the charges that our government is putting on Uhuru and Amali? Because I think we should be all hands on deck. It's a scary precedent that they're setting with what they're doing to Uhuru. So do you have anything you want to add or anything you want to share about that?
So I think they're being indicted under the Foreign Agents Registration Act of 1937, which interestingly enough, this is the act that W.E.B. Du Bois was indicted under in 1951 for his involvement in the Peace Information Center. So Du Bois, at the age of 80 something, was indicted by the U.S. government for peace, right? For organizing for peace. And this is the same piece of legislation that I believe the APSP is being indicted under because of their relationship with a Russian national who ostensibly has been coercing the APSP to destabilize and sow dissent in the United States. One was for a We Charge Genocide petition that the APSP intended or has filed before the United Nations or had intended to file. Another connection that they're making is because of, the APSP's ongoing criticism of the war in Ukraine and the role of the United States and NATO in provoking that war. And the APSP has been around since the 60s, right? And they've been having a very radical critique. So this idea that Russian nationals are influencing their politics is absolutely asinine, and it's part of a broad history of anti-black racial oppression, whereby black folks are number one considered to be suspect citizens, are considered to be subversives, are considered to be um, especially susceptible to foreign ideologies and outside influence, and also that we can't think for ourselves, that this long history of oppression that we've been subjected to has no bearing on our own analysis. It's only if other people, whether it's Germans during World War One, Bolsheviks, and now Russians, unless they put this bug in our ear, we can't analyze our own material conditions. We don't have our own sort of our own political ideas, and so. This is why I say it's a current iteration of the Black Scare, Red Scare, and it's something that we all should be paying attention to, because if it can happen to a smaller party like the APSP, it certainly can happen to more prominent individuals and organizations.
Yeah, and it's wild because if people understood their history, they would know that people like Malcolm X admired Stalin. You had W.B. Du Bois who talked very favorably about Stalin. You had a lot of these black radical organizations that kept their networks open internationally.
Right.
If I They met with Cuban radicals as well. Like there was a very big there was a lot of solidarity internationally. They stood with
Mm-hmm.
Palestinians, same way we stood with South African apartheid. There was always this giant um, black solidarity network standing against imperialism. So when I see Uhuru, when I see what the work that you guys are doing, you guys are essentially following the footsteps of our radical leaders of the past, who didn't just look within our border, look at the international struggle, which is why it's great to see this event taking place and you speaking there. Dr. CBS, I'm assuming, stand for Dr. Cherise Bird and Stelly. You see she's
That is
speaking there. Um,
correct.
all right, great. And then I wanted to meet because I was talking to Uhuru a while ago because they
Mm-hmm.
based in St. Louis. I'm definitely going to visit them one day because the organization and the work that Black Alliance for Peace, the Uhuru movement, what they're doing is fantastic. I think more people need to be speaking about the persecution that they're going under because it's a very dire sign of things to come. Any last thoughts you have on Amali or Huru and their prosecution before we move on? Before we get to the main story, I know a lot of people waiting for the main story of Bree being fired from the Hill, but I have a few headlines because I've been covering the concentration camps going on in Israel, and we got more updates on that. But any last thoughts you have on this topic before we move on?
Free the guys.